there's a lot of, I guess, underground fights that were sanctioned. And you basically show up, you weigh in, and then they match you up with whoever else is there. I think I was like 15 or something at the time.
Yeah.
And the other guy that was my weight class was like, I think he was like in the mid-20s. He ended up breaking his wrist on my face.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I ended up breaking his nose.
Oh, wow.
He punched me right in my nose where it didn't break, but both my eyes got black after the fight.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I'm not your typical looking videographer, you know what I mean? And I've gotten a lot of questions when I show up, especially when I show up to like high paying clients. You know, I show up to like fancy restaurants, big houses, you know, $1 million mansions. And when I roll up, people have questions like,
no more locked doors.
Funny, growing up, I did not look how I look now, obviously. So
probably had a comb over.
I had a flat top. Bro. My
El
dad,
Salvadorian with a flat top. I gotta see pictures of
for
this.
some reason, my dad always wanted me to have a flat top.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Get Bizzy Podcast. Today's guest is not just an accomplished entrepreneur, but he's also a longtime friend of mine, Junior Rivas, the creative genius behind Rivas Media. Junior is a personal and commercial videographer and photographer known for his unique ability to bring visions to life and capture unforgettable moments. Junior and I first crossed paths back in 2016, 2017 through a mutual friend when we used to ride motorcycles together. At the time, Junior was running a bike club called SoCal Yamaha, and we were young, bold, and focused on the road ahead. As the years went by, both of us gradually slowed down on riding, especially after losing some close friends. We lost contact for a few years, but reconnected during the COVID months when I reached out and hired Junior as a personal trainer, and he helped me really get back into shape. Now, Junior's not only a guest on this podcast, but he's also a friend who has consistently pursued his passion with the same intensity and dedication that made him a standout in the bike club days. His journey from being a professional fighter to becoming a successful entrepreneur is inspiring, and I'm thrilled to share his story with you guys today. What's up, man? Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I think it's long overdue.
Absolutely. We've been talking about this for a while. I'm glad we could finally get into it.
Yeah, finally scheduled it in.
Yeah, exactly. Make it happen. So, how's it going today? Good today? Feeling good,
man. Yeah, you know, got a lot on my schedule, but freed up some time, you know, spent time with the family, and then showed up here for the podcast, so I'm excited.
Yeah, thank you for coming down. You know, appreciate it. You know, this is one thing I like to sit down and talk to the audience and tell the audience, you know, we're here to really bring stories of how we get to where we're at right now, where we're at today. And I think that it's good to share your story. The other thing I want to do is I want people to know more about you and what it is that you do, so we can, you know, help expand and get your name further out there. You're obviously doing great things, but I believe more people should know who you are and what it is that you do, you know?
Yeah, especially nowadays. I mean, there's so much going on with social media, you know, you have to do things in a unique way to stand out.
Right.
You know, or at least be original, not following trends all the time, you know, so. And like you said, how we were speaking about earlier, you know, a lot of people also, new and upcoming photographers, content creators, you know, they look up to people like us with experience to kind of see which way they should take.
Right? Paving the way is really one of those things that I really strongly believe in. As I've gone through my journey and my paths, I've realized that I think back to when I was much younger, and I didn't see anybody doing the things that I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And I didn't have anybody to speak to and anybody to talk to. Hell, we didn't have YouTube or Instagram and things like that.
None of that.
So now it's a great thing. It's a great experience to bring that knowledge forward so we all can kind of share in it.
You know, a funny story about social media. I remember years ago, I wanted to share my photography. Before I did photography, before I got into video, I was looking for apps where I can post pictures, and I actually found an app called Instagram, right? The funny thing about that is that I downloaded the app, and there's literally maybe like 20 downloads on the app at the time. Mm-hmm. And it was just nothing but like older ladies posting pictures of flowers in their garden. So I'm like, man, this app is boring. So I ended up deleting it. And then a couple years later, I re-downloaded it and it became what it is today.
Hey, if you can imagine
crazy,
if you would have just stayed on it,
if I would have been grandfathered in, bro.
As soon as Snoop Dogg got on it, it blew up. So
that's true.
Yeah. So I kind of want to take some time and really, there's a few questions I prepared for you today to kind of help guide us along your journey and whatnot, and kind of really help mold and tell that story. So the first question I really want to jump into today is, can you tell us about where you're from and what your early life was like?
Yeah, so I'm from California. I lived about 20 minutes out from Los Angeles. I was born and raised here. So my family is from El Salvador. So, you know, I respect their origins there. And my early life was great. I mean, I lived with a typical Hispanic family, you know, very, I guess you can say, sheltered. And, you know, they always wanted the best for me. You know, always made it a point to be good in school, study at home, you know, do all my chores at the house before getting to do anything else, you know.
So that means you stayed out of trouble growing up.
Stayed out of trouble growing up, yeah, for a while.
For a while.
For a while.
Okay.
And, you know, as a kid, you don't really see what your parents are trying to do to you. You kind of see it as punishment, right? Making you study, making you clean and stuff. But I think all that helped me in my business today. You know, it helped me with structure, getting things done no matter how I feel. So that definitely helped growing up.
Right.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, I think that a lot of times when we're kids, you know, we don't always know what. It's like we just feel like our parents are trying to stop us and restrict us.
Yeah.
And now I know you being a new father and me having a few kids, it's like I've gone through that journey where it's like you're trying to, you know, help shape your kids' future because you want them to be, one, motivated, responsible, and, you know, we see a bright future for them, you know. They might not see that future.
See it that way.
But it's funny kind of like looking back in retrospect, kind of how that all kind of takes place, you know.
Yeah. Definitely.
Cool. So what were some of your early passions or interests growing up? Like how did they shape you, and how did they shape you with who you are today?
So it's funny, growing up, I did not look how I look now, obviously. So
probably had a comb over.
I had a flat top, bro. My
El Salvadorian with a flat top. I got to see pictures of this.
For some reason, my dad always wanted me to have a flat top, and I hated that haircut. And but anyways, I was a big nerd growing up. You know, I like reading. I like comic books a lot. And on my spare time, I would read comic books, and a lot of times I would freehand all the little storyboards on the comic book. And little by little, I'll just get better and better at drawing. So I've always been kind of nerdy and artsy my whole life, right?
Right.
So I think I always see, growing up now, I see things in a different perspective of things they could be, I guess you can say. So that's kind of what led me to where I'm at now.
Okay, so favorite comic book character?
I have a few. I like Spawn, the original.
I love Spawn. Did you watch the movie?
I did.
I think I watched it recently. I was like, oh, this kind of sucked, but I loved it. I loved it
Back
as a
then
kid.
was good. Back then was good,
It was good.
I think I liked it because it was a little bit more rugged than some of the other characters, you know. Okay. It wasn't as polished, I guess you can say.
I liked him. I don't know who he was in the comic books. So I didn't really watch a lot of comic books, but I like Spawn because for me, it was like the first like black superhero that I've seen, at least in the movies. That's what he was played as. So I was like, oh, cool. There's actually a black superhero.
Then who do we got after? Blade? Was he in the comic
Blade?
Book?
Yeah. He showed up in the comic books, but again,
can't remember if he was before or after.
He was, I don't know my comic book history all that well, but I did see him in the comic books. That was an awesome movie. They're supposed to be making a remake of Blade. I heard. I don't know how true that is.
I think I saw that.
You saw it?
I saw a brief. I don't know if it was an article I saw online.
Right. Yeah. Okay, cool. Awesome. Was there any like specific, like, you know, what were your dreams and aspirations? Like, what did you see yourself doing when you grow up? Did you have that thought?
Growing up, you know, I don't think I had too much thought on the future. It was more of like focusing on my academics at that moment. I know I was really intrigued by law enforcement, actually, going into high school. Because I remember in high school, they actually had a program for I guess, future explorers to kind of get you into the academy and different careers in law enforcement, like criminal justice and stuff like that. So I did start pursuing that when I first got into high school. And that was, I think, the first time I kind of started to look into what am I going to do in the future, you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely didn't know that about you.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that.
So, so this brings me to another question. You know, I have never seen you fight, but I always ask you for like videos and stuff like that. But so how did you get into fighting?
So I got
UFC fighting or MMA fighting style?
So growing up in high school, and like I said, I had flat top.
And, got picked on?
Yeah, I got picked on a lot. I got bullied a lot. Also, you know, growing up, you know, I was, as a Hispanic family, they want you to dress a certain way, you know. And out here is not the same. So I got bullied a lot growing up. And as you know, a lot of times in middle school, the same kids that bully you kind of follow you to like high school and stuff, right? So it was always very uncomfortable for me. So that's what led me into looking into how to defend myself. So I was looking for a boxing gym around the area. I couldn't find one, so I ended up finding a Muay Thai gym. So I kind of started Muay Thai by default because I was the only gym in the area at the moment, which was in walking distance. Because I couldn't afford it, so I basically made a deal with the owner where I would clean up, you know, pick up after everybody, and then that would pay for my training. So I would have to walk or take my bicycle to training. That's how I got started my fighting career. So I started with Muay Thai, and then later on in that gym, they added a jiu-jitsu coach. And then later on, they added MMA into the same gym. So a lot of times I would just be there all day. I'll do my Muay Thai, jiu-jitsu, and MMA all in the same day. I would just take breaks in between.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know that about you. Muay Thai, all that stuff. I did a little bit of Golden Gloves when I lived in Massachusetts. So fighting, I can tell you, I can remember my first few fights that I had, getting into that ring and standing out there and everybody around you looking and you know, feeling that adrenaline rush and not wanting to get knocked out.
Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit about your first fight that you ever had?
My first fight. It's funny, that gym that I went to, I was there maybe like 2 weeks. And they already had some fights lined up, and one of their guys that was the same weight as me ended up getting injured. So they asked me, like, would I want to try a fight? And it was an MMA fight. So I was like, you know what? This would be a good time for me to see if this is something I like or not, right? So I was like, screw it. I'll take the fight. It was like they told me like on a Wednesday or Thursday, and the fight was for Saturday. So I was only there for 2 weeks of training. Only had like 3 days notice, and I took the fight. And it was one of those fights where, you know, this back in the days, MMA wasn't what it is today. So there's a lot of I guess underground fights that were sanctioned, and you basically show up, you weigh in. And then they match you up with whoever else is there at the same weight class.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I think I was like 15 or something at the time.
Yeah.
And the other guy that was my weight class was like, I think he was like in the mid-20s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
wow.
We got in the cage, and I just saw tunnel vision. I just saw red, man. I just saw red. I'm like, I just got to take this guy out. So obviously my nutrition wasn't there. I wasn't hydrated properly.
Your stamina
wasn't there.
Yeah.
So as soon as the bell rang, we literally just went at it.
Yeah.
You know, and he ended up breaking his wrist on my face.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I ended up breaking his nose.
Oh, wow.
He punched me right in my nose where it didn't break, but both my eyes got black after the fight.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, we went all the way to the end, but ended up giving it to that guy. And literally right after the fight, I dropped down because I got like so dehydrated that I couldn't function. Yeah, so it was a weird experience for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I remember my first fight and that adrenaline. I remember the one thing I had was I had the ability to fight because me, unlike you, I felt like well, similar to you, I guess I say I got bullied and picked on. But my bullying being picked on, I was fighting like every day. So I got my training really in the streets fighting. And but when I first had my first like actual official, fight.
Legal.
Legal. Because, when you're fighting in the streets, I mean, usually that goes 3 or 4 minutes, maybe 5 at the longest, but when you're fighting like for reals, it's like those matches, that round is a long round.
It's a long round.
It's a long round.
Yeah.
And if you're not prepared and your stamina is like, and you go out there to kill every single second, it's like, you get gassed pretty quickly.
Yeah, you get gassed out.
Yeah.
I've been doing that.
Absolutely. Well, cool. It's actually good to like hear that story and hear that background. So how long did you fight for?
I fought, I had a couple injuries, so on and off for about 14 years. Mm-hmm. And I guess just like you, growing up, getting bullied did lead to a lot of street fights. So been fighting for a long time. Yeah.
So what inspired you to really transition from fighting into the career that you're in today?
So unfortunately, I had a lot of injuries during fighting. So especially back then, people and coaches weren't really into recovery or, rehabbing or going to therapy for your body, you know what I mean? So a lot of times, coaches would just tell you, hey, just go home. I said, come back tomorrow, And I think I didn't take care of my injuries correctly. So it got to a point where my injuries, I couldn't bear them anymore during training. So I couldn't go through a full fight camp for fights anymore. And then with that, I started to lose the drive to actually be in the fight. Motivation, you know what I mean?
I mean, what was it? What were you making a lot of money doing it, or?
Yeah, I was making good money, At first, Muay Thai, especially back in the day, wasn't as popular, so you would get paid a couple hundred.
Right.
When I transitioned to MMA, it went to a couple thousand, like 6, 10 G's for a fight, depending where you were.
Oh, okay, that's pretty good.
So it was good.
Okay.
But
your 6, 10 G's, so you would have like a fight a month, 2 fights a month?
I would try to fight every other month or every month if I could.
Right. So
at least 5 to 6 fights a year.
Right. Yeah. So then you're actually like stretching whatever your earnings were in between, and then you're training, and then as much as you have to eat and all that stuff.
Pay for your travels, training, sponsors, all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, I didn't want to stop fighting, but I kind of got forced to stop fighting. So
gotcha.
And I guess one thing I did like about my fighting was receiving a lot of photos and videos of me fighting from professional photographers from the promotion. Mm-hmm. And my artistic side started to kick in again. I was like, you know what? I want to take pictures of my teammates at the gym. So I got a camera and started practicing at the gym with my teammates.
Right.
And that's kind of where it started to build up my photography.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That makes sense. A lot of times, you are, what you're around and what you see, and then you already have that artistic background with art and drawing comics and stuff like that. And then kind of going forward, starting to think, it's like, man, my body's getting abused and beat up, what's the next move? What's the next step? And I get that, especially for me too, because for me, my passion for photography really, honestly, probably started how most people start with, which was really taking pictures of my kids, and wanting to have those experiences, going on a couple of trips and stuff like that. That's where mine started from, but I get that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I transitioned over.
Okay, cool. So as you started Junior Rivas Media, what do you think some of your biggest challenges you faced, especially in learning the technical aspects of your craft?
Some of the most difficult things, I guess, for me was just making sure I did everything the correct way, especially going to the programs, making sure I had a good workflow. And also, starting off, budget is a big thing. You got to make sure you got all the space and media for all the footage you're doing. Have proper gear for, I guess, the proper genre of photos you're trying to take. You know what I mean? So that was always the biggest challenge for me, I guess, is just getting set up with everything I need. Yeah.
Was there anyone that inspired you that was working in the field of photography, videography that you looked to and said, hey, I like that person, I want to be like that person, or maybe took you in under the wing and kind of showed you the ropes?
Yeah, so, where I grew up, photography wasn't a big thing. The neighborhood I grew up in back in the day used to be very rough. So if you weren't playing like some sort of contact sport, people would kind of look down on you. So there wasn't too many guys in the area at the time that was into like photography or video. But later on, I met some guys in the motorcycle and car industry, and it turns out that they were wedding photographers as well. One of these guys' name is Byron, so a big shout out to him.
Oh, I remember him. He was in group, right?
Yeah, he was in the cars and I think motorcycle as well. So he actually was the first guy to kind of show me the ropes and always was open to answering any questions I had, and definitely helped me out for sure.
Okay, cool. Yeah. When I realized I think you were doing photography before I started. And I realized you were doing photography. I think I went on Instagram one day, and this is after we were like in the bike club. I used to, what was the guy's name? Oh man, I'm mad. I can't remember his name. The guy used to bring me around. Martin, yeah. Yeah, Martin. Yeah. It was like, I remember, I think he was following you, and then on Instagram, and then I was like, I never really followed anybody from the bike club, but we were all in there, so I just started following people from the bike club. And I remember being out there, I was like, oh, this guy is actually a photographer. You had some pictures up on your page. It was like, oh, these aren't bad, type situation. And I remember we did, I don't know if you were there, but we did a photography shoot downtown in LA. Some girl, Sarah, did the pictures. But, we're all out there riding and stuff like that. So around that time, I had a camera, but it was just like this piece of shit camera. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like a good camera.
No, I feel you.
But I thought it was a good camera because I had paid $800 for it.
Well, back then, especially.
Right. Yeah, I thought it was a good camera, but yeah, that's when I really kind of like. I think around that time when I was like, oh, I could actually make this into something. Probably for me, more around what it is that I do. I don't know if I'm a photographer that actually wants to work for clients, but I'm a photographer that likes to, specialty jobs. Jobs. That's what I like to focus on. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think I remember one time. I think you were there. We set up a group ride to downtown LA, and we did a bunch of photos there too.
Yeah, we did. Back in those days, I remember. We didn't exactly talk too much in the very beginning. But I had another close friend of mine. His name was Kenny Jones. He passed away a while back. But I started riding quads with him.
Oh, okay.
And I've always been just a quick learner, So we used to go out to like Pismo, ride quads, and I never rode a bike before a clutch. So that's kind of how I started to learn. And then fast forward when I met you, I had been riding for a little bit, but I hadn't been riding a lot, And
I remember you showing up at my house because so we used to hold meets. I used to host meets at restaurants and different things like that. And I would put on Instagram, like, hey, if you guys want to meet at my house, we can all, roll together.
And Martin would always hit me up, hey, do you want to go? I don't even know how I met him. But
I expected like 5 people to show up, but it would be like 30 guys on motorcycles showing up to the house because they wanted to ride with us to the event. And, a lot of people didn't know it was going to be like a spirited ride. So everybody was trying to keep up with us at the front.
Yeah. And I was one of those guys, because see, this is my problem. My problem is if I see you do it, in my mind, I can do it. That's just what I think, right?
Yeah.
So this dude is, I think we're like somewhere in Pacific Palisades. We rode from wherever we were at down through Pacific Palisades, and on the road they have those big plates and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember I was right next to you, and I was like leaning, and we hit that plate, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah. That happened a few times. Yeah.
I was like, but yeah, we used to do some rides. Some dangerous rides. There were some times I looked down. We were really cruising for sure.
Yeah.
Had a lot of fun. So I want to ask you, how did you begin working with your high-profile clients, like celebrities and professional athletes, and what is that experience like?
So actually, I met some celebrities at the gym I was training at. Actually, I had this one lady come in, and she was just asking for gym membership rates. I'm like, okay, it was like a Saturday. It was just me there at the time. And then it turns out she was a celebrity. So that's kind of the first celebrity I worked with. Because I would teach her kids kickboxing. And then they also wanted some photos. So I ended up taking some photos. Started working there. And also we haven't touched on too much, but after fighting, I raced motorcycles for a few years. And a lot of celebrities would actually go to those track days.
Bike tracks, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I'm friends with my buddy who owns our organization, so I'll always be around him. And everybody has to go through him to sign up or register or whatever. So anytime we're around him, some celebrities or, influencers would go hang out with him, and I will always be in that area.
Right.
So eventually I would take pictures of them on their bikes, on the racetrack, send them over to them. And sometimes I had a few guys actually hit me up for work outside of the racetrack. And yeah, it's great, man, to get people like that are around cameras and videos all the time to like my stuff, it meant a lot to me at the time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I think what a lot of people forget sometimes too is that celebrities are normal people,
Yeah.
They're cool, they're chill and all that other stuff. And as long as you treat people like people, it's just like being another person, but sometimes it's when you're not treating people like people, when I will say that tends to get a little weird,
Yeah, you know what? I don't think I ever get too starstruck.
Yeah.
I just know who they are. So as long as they're friendly, I talk to them like normal person,
Right.
I have seen celebrities shy away from other people because first thing you do is
people all up in their grill.
Yeah, first thing you do is like, hey, can we take a photo? I'm like,
Right.
dude, he gets enough of that or she gets enough of that. Just talk to him like normal person, you're good to go.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
and
they actually want to work with you because you treat them normal.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, it's great. It's like celebrities or celebrities, but it's like, you don't approach people and it's like, have a conversation, get to know somebody.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times people, they see an opportunity in front of them instead of really treating people like people. And, because naturally it's like, I always tell people, it's like, how do you make friends? You make friends by saying hello, being courteous and having a conversation. Yeah. And just like you and I, we met each other, we said hello, we had a conversation. Yeah. And fast forward years later, we still conversate, we still talk.
Yeah.
But that's the same way. It's like just because somebody is famous doesn't mean that you need to treat them in some specific way. But there are some asshole celebrities out there that
there is, yeah. I've met a few. But for the most part, they're all cool,
Yeah. A lot of times, there's a lot of cool cats out there.
I just talk to him. I introduce myself. If I don't know them, they don't know me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah,
so
exactly,
that's what I do.
Yeah, and not everybody's looking at. Every time you go out, not everybody's looking to meet a new friend. Sometimes it just happens. You got a good vibe, a good energy about you.
Yeah,
and all that other good
sometimes
stuff.
I mean about being a celebrity. It's just sometimes I'm out there. I don't want to talk to you. Don't talk to me. It just also sometimes depends on the day. You know what I mean? So
yeah. So I would say, your business has a unique creative vision, and I kind of right now, I'm starting to understand kind of where it all kind of comes from. But how do you ensure your work stands out in this competitive industry of photography, videography?
Well, like I said, I was pretty sheltered growing up, so I was never really into what's trending at the time. And also, I couldn't afford some of the stuff that was, I guess, trending, like expensive shoes, clothes, and stuff like that at school, right? So I always tended to shy away from trends. So I would be like, you know what? I'm going to do whatever everybody else wants, I don't want it. I'm going to do my own thing. So basically, especially now with social media being so popular, everybody just wants to follow the trends. So my thing, I consider myself more of like a storyteller. So I've noticed everybody wants to go to those more flashy, quick transition videos. I think my work stands out because I'm still telling a story with everything I post.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's a point to the video. It's not just a bunch of clips put together.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. I think, trends are cool. And sometimes I see some of these trends and I think that maybe they can enhance my skills in some type of way. But when you're overdoing stuff and, it's like,
And don't get me wrong, I'll do some trends here and there just because it's fun and
Right.
you know it's cool to connect with people, but
Right.
it's not the priority of my work. You know what I
Right.
mean? And then, like you said, there are some trends that actually can show you a few new tricks, I guess you can say. that
Right.
You can learn.
Yeah, following trends is definitely a way to not set yourself apart. So
Yeah,
that's good that you try to stay outside of that.
Yeah.
But and you're right. You know, the key thing is storytelling.
Yeah.
You know, what is a story saying, and how can you best convey that story? Because at the end of the day, that's the thing that matters the most. Is really
Yeah.
the story.
And like you mentioned, you know, I do personal and commercial work, so the story could be different. Like if it's a commercial, you got to see what the business is about, what the product is, and make sure you make that a point. You know, at least have a couple scenes that really focuses on that,
Right.
on the point of the business, the product, or your subject. You know what
Right.
I mean, yeah.
Right. Cool. All right. Moving along. Let's see. So I think this is an important one. If you're out there, you're trying to build relationships with people, this is an important topic right here. So building strong relationships with clients is key to your success. What strategies do you use to maintain and grow these relationships over time?
So I've actually touched on this topic recently on one of my posts on my Instagram. Is I see a lot of beginners, even professionals, still, you know, they get hired for a job. They say their job is 1 or 2 hours. They show up and then they leave right away. You know, I think for me, I like to stick around. If it's my existing client, I'll stick around, you know, hang out with him, his family, his invitees, you know, create a stronger relationship. And maybe even go eat before, after, or even a different day of the shoot.
Right.
Just to talk about other things besides just the video, you know what I mean?
That's actually a very important point because you're building that relationship.
Yeah.
You're getting to know your client personally.
Yeah.
And I guarantee that shows in the work that you do when you do work with them because you know them in a personal way. You know, you're not just showing up doing your job.
Doing your job, yeah.
I think part of doing your job is actually getting to know the people that you're working with, getting to know their likes and dislikes, getting to know their bad side and their good side. And things like that, you know.
Also, business-wise, it's a smart move because now they're comfortable with you and they'd rather keep working with you rather than having to build a new relationship with another stranger, you know what I mean? So, and like I said, also too, networking is good. A lot of times when you're at these events or projects, there's going to be other people around.
Mm-hmm.
You know, stick around, kind of talk to them, create relationships with them. And you're not always going to get the job with these people like the same day, same week. It might be a few months later, but as long as you have a good relationship, you always be in their mind to, you know, hit you up when they need you.
Junior is spitting facts right now, guys. I'm telling you guys, these things are so simple. It's so simple. It's like, you know, you grow up, your mom tells you, hey, when you walk inside of a house, say hello. You know, simple things like that go a long way to building relationships. So one of the things that I did when I was young, when I first started my contracting license, was I would meet people. I'll get their contact information, keep their number.
Yeah.
We would go hang out. Sometimes I wouldn't see them for a week, a month, years.
Yeah.
But, you know, or, you know, sometimes people have my number and they would call me. And they call me, I was like, I show up for people.
Yeah.
You know, when people call me, a lot of times I show up for people, especially if I have the time.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, that's how you build valuable relationships with people, you know. So.
Yeah, I've met people that I've honestly forgotten about, and they'll call me like 2 years later. I'm like, hey, are you still doing this? I'm like, oh, yeah.
Right, yeah.
And then there you go.
That's another valuable lesson. Don't change your number because once you change your number, it's like you might have people you don't want calling you, but at the end of the day, people will call you from years back. Hey, thank God you didn't change your number.
Yeah.
You know, they're so happy to get a hold of you.
That's true, man.
Yeah. That was some advice I think somebody gave me a long time ago. And I'm glad I've held on to it. I've had my same number for a long time. So if you were to give your younger self advice in life, what would you tell yourself?
I think I would tell myself that, you know, do things for myself. You know, I think I was always stuck on trying to please everybody around me, what they asked for, what they wanted, and I started to lose, I guess, focus on what I really wanted. So I think I just need to do my work and my goals, and then be proud of what I did and where I'm going. So definitely, I would say just focus on yourself more.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really agree with you when you say, focus on yourself. I think focusing on yourself, it's more about this. Focus on what makes you happy, right?
Yeah.
Because if you can find what makes you happy and you can have that feeling that you wake up and you're excited, then when you do work with someone else, that excitement is going to show.
Yeah.
So you're really able to give more of that energy, that positive energy into your passion, into your work, into the people that you're working with.
Yeah.
And it benefits everybody around. So it's not just that, I think, being selfish and focusing on yourself is it's kind of one of those things that has an effect. It lets everybody else know what you're passionate about. And it also shows in the work and the commitments that you make.
Yeah, I think it creates a good foundation to everything else. If you're not happy with what you're doing,
you're not gonna do it for very long.
You're not gonna do it for long.
And you're not gonna be happy doing it and sharing it with your clients.
Exactly. You're not gonna look forward to shooting, editing, or being creative.
Right.
So
right.
I think being happy about what you're doing is a good foundation for sure.
I'm telling you guys, bars right now, guys. All right, so this is a good question. Who do you look up to for inspiration, and what person inspires you the most in your work?
In my work, I don't have a specific person per se. I just look up to the creators out there and friends who are doing what they say they wanted to do with the content creating, filming, photography, and really who are really stuck to their own unique ways. I think I look up to those type of people the most, and that also helped me. It helped tell myself that being yourself and not having to be like everybody else is still a good thing. So
yeah,
that definitely helped me out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So you kind of mentioned this to me previously. You mentioned an up-and-coming documentary project, a cinematic biography of your life. Can you tell us more about what inspired this project and what you hope to achieve with it?
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, I'm not your typical looking videographer. You know what I mean? And I've gotten a lot of questions when I show up, especially when I show up to high-paying clients. I show up to fancy restaurants, big houses, $1 million mansions. And when I roll up, people have questions like...
No more locked doors.
People have questions like, man, like how did I get into this field? Because, I did have a pretty rough upbringing, my own fault, but we got there. So I think people are very curious on why I look this way, what I've been through. And I think the best way to show it, I'm not the best talker, so I think the best way to show it for me is in visuals in a documentary.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely going to help to kind of let people know where I come from and how I got here. You know what I mean?
I can't tell you guys how long, to go back to 2016 since I've known him. He's always had a shaved head or whatnot. And, but always the chillest, most coolest cat that you could ever meet and talk to, right? But I think it was last year I seen this guy and he showed up. He had a full head of hair. I was like, bro, you can grow hair.
Yeah.
He does. He looks a little bit more square, So if you ever want to tone it down, just grow the hair back.
Just grow the hair back, yeah. Or wear a hat. Wear a hat, really good.
Cool. All right, so I think we got one more question for you today. So looking ahead, what are some of your long-term goals for Junior Rivas Media, and what steps are you taking to achieve them?
So my long-term goals, be to work with bigger companies, maybe on projects that last more than, just a couple weeks, work on projects that are months in advance, And And also, I would like to have my own studio where I can set up, sets for people to rent out and stuff like that, and that'd be a good way to have passive income in my own place while I still get to, create my own schedule and work on other projects,
Right.
So that's more of a long-term goal. And one way I'm getting to that now is just, working with a lot of one-time clients, having a few retainers here and there to create, like you said, relationships. So when I do get to that point, I still have all these contacts that want to work with me, So
Right.
that's definitely a stepping stone on going that direction.
It's definitely a long time journey. It's like every day, every year, the relationships, our friendship, other friendships that come along. It's one of those things where it's like, you tend to, like I know you.
Yeah.
I know what you're going to do, what you're willing to go through to get a job done. We've been in the trenches together, quote unquote, so
we've been in the middle of nowhere filming.
And it's just one of those things. So when people know that they can rely on you, rely on your quality of work, rely on your professionalism, all that stuff, it's one of those things like, people are not going to want to not know you, because it's one of those things. Yeah,
it's a big thing for me, just acting professional, and the biggest thing for me too is quality and everything I do, my work, the way I present myself, audio, video, all that stuff, So, and as like I said, if I get that studio, quality is gonna be another thing, everything's gonna be done right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, if the people want to find you out there in the world, what's your website? What's your handles? What's the best way to find you and reach out to you?
Yeah, I mean, you go to Instagram to @junior.rivas_media. And my website is the same, it's juniorrivasmedia.com. And you guys can always contact me there. I got my email, phone number on there. So reach out anytime you guys want, so.
Awesome.
And then I'm very quick to reply, so don't worry about that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Any advice for anyone out there in the audience that might be looking to either do their own thing or become a photographer, a videographer? Maybe there's a kid out there in high school that's like, I don't know, I love photography. This is the direction I want to go in. Anything like that. You have any advice for someone out there that might be listening that might want to do, go on their own journey, on their own path?
Yeah, I think my advice to anybody out there looking is just don't be intimidated. It could be scary to say you can do your own thing and not know where to start. But I think the important thing is to just start. You're not going to be great at anything right now, but as long as you get started, you'll work your way there. So I think that's my best advice. Just start, man.
Just start. Just do
start.
It.
Do it.
There you go.
Don't be afraid. People can tell you things that, they can try and bring you down, but just do it. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's the podcast, man. I want to take the time to thank you for showing up today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you coming on. I hope you guys get some value out of the podcast. Well, I know you guys get some value out of this podcast, a lot of you guys watching it in the business, for a couple of reasons. One, you guys are going to know more about an awesome photographer and videographer out there. What areas do you service specifically right now?
Right now, mainly in the LA, OC area, but I'll be out in San Bernardino as well. So, as long as I go where the money goes.
Go where the money
goes, man. You pay me, I'll be there.
Okay, there you go. See, so there you go. He'll come to you if necessary.
Yeah.
But located here in Southern California, and I think people are looking for people that they can depend on, people they can trust. And I know that you're somebody that you're very dependable, and trustworthy. That. So that's one of those things that people don't always know. So I hope this video will serve as a tool for people to get to know you a little bit better. And here at the Get Bizzy Podcast, we're putting together a list of entrepreneurs and people in the Inland Empire, Los Angeles area, and even San Diego, where you can come on that list, come on the website, and be able to say, hey, here's somebody that the Get Bizzy Podcast works with. Now, I can speak for his character and his work right now. If you don't like him, right? Hey, that's all you. But seriously, I really want to make sure to have a platform that, we can really connect and bridge some gaps, because sometimes I'm looking for a service or something done. And I'm new to the Inland Empire, so I want to be able to reach out and build a contact list of people. Hey, call this guy, call this person for this.
No, that's great, man. Us growing up, we didn't have that.
Yeah.
Social media wasn't a thing. You physically had to go walk somewhere to give somebody your number,
right?
Talk to them,
right?
Now you can just reach out by going online, talking to them.
I mean, Yelp has got some great star reviews and stuff like that, but sometimes it's different. It's like now I feel like people get to see your personality.
Yeah.
People get to say, hey, that's a cool cat right there. I want to work with them, I'm Junior Rivas Media. Hey, everybody get on your phones right now. Start hitting up Junior Rivas Media for some photography and videography work. Check out his work on Instagram.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it.
All right, cool. Yeah. Thank you, guys. Peace. All right. That's it.
Oh, yeah.